whoops, forgot to unmute, as opposed to doing, these huge franchises? Is there any extra pressure?
The answer is yes and no. It's my job. So I treat even the small indie games with as much creativity and professionalism as I bring. And you just never know sometimes which games are going to take off. So
very fair point.
So you don't cheat yourself and you don't cheat the fans and the gamers. But Mortal Kombat and World of Warcraft for a while, and now Street Fighter, and now back to Legends of Zelda, they're significant, but my job is to do my job, and just to do the best job that I can, whatever the job is.
That's awesome. Just a consummate professional. We like that around here. How have you liked the convention so far? How's the Midwest treating you?
This convention before, but they have treated me outstandingly. The host and the people who invited me were just so gracious, and this is a little different than some of the cons that I've attended before, and I appreciate not having to sit at a table for 8 to 10 hours on end waiting for people, but to have interaction. I was playing games with people all weekend. I was in the game room and crept up on a couple of people when they were playing Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, and offered a couple of quotes from the game from these major characters, so that was kind of cool for me.
So are you much of a gamer yourself? Like, do you play at home in your free time? Do you have free time, first of all? And if you do...
I don't have a whole lot of free time. I'm an actor, and I also keep alive the words of Martin Luther King Jr., so I travel all over the world. I've committed 50 or so of his speeches to memory, and it feels like we need them now more than ever. And then I teach West African hand drumming to children and adults, and so I spend time doing that. So I don't spend a whole lot of time gaming. I like them, I have fun. And the old school games that are in the other room have kept me engaged and enthralled for hours on end.
Now I've heard too that you have memorized so many speeches that you can actually take pieces of them and put them together to make it more in the moment, for the moment. How do you, first of all, how do you memorize that many? That's incredible. But how do you find the right pieces in that moment?
Well, as an actor, you do the research, and I started the voice of Martin Luther King when I was 17 years old. I'm 60 years old now, and I'm still doing it. So over time, I've had the opportunity to meet his family and his children and his late wife and his best friend and people who walked and marched with him, and they were able to share stories. So as an actor, all of that feeds into the backstory for you. And once all the speeches are in there, because voiceover generally, you don't have to memorize anything. As a matter of fact, you can't. Most of the time for video games, all of the time, you don't see the actual script until after you book the job and you're in the booth. But with this, I've had the opportunity to listen over the years, and now with YouTube and all of that, there's more information available now than ever before. And it's a labor of love. I love doing it, and it makes sense. Some of the speeches, some of the references, for example, to peace, he would have talked about at 20 different locations, or his stand against the war, or his stand against poverty. And so it was kind of his greatest hits. It's relatively easy once you have all the information to piece them together and remove geographic and chronological references. If I don't say Vietnam in 1968, it sounds like he's talking about the war right now in 2026, in terms of our role and what are we doing in the world.
Yeah, it's tough sometimes because video games are often used as an escape, but sometimes you have to be in the moment too. Is there, the fans in particular use, whether it's video games or movies or media, to sometimes really escape the outside world.
Me too.
Yeah. So me, I'm just a lowly video game store owner. I don't do this for a living. I'm not a professional by any stretch. I just own a video game store. But what I see is people come to us, to escape that. Do you feel like when you're voicing those characters, though, you're trying to, and I know it seems silly when you say something like, when you're playing a Street Fighter character, but do you feel like you're trying to reach them in a certain way? You're trying to you're trying to get them to understand where the world is right now through these characters as well?
Yes and no. I mean, the truth is, even when you play a big boss or the main villain in a game, as a human, you try and find redeeming qualities and the humanity. All of them, or at least all the characters, for the most part that I play, have a human base. And so they all have a story. And in some way, I do hope that people get that people aren't just pure evil, but that there's a reason why people behave and react and respond the way that they do in certain situations. And we may not agree with them, but at some point we may have to listen to somebody we don't like or agree with.
And it's kind of fun being the bad guy sometimes, right?
It's the best being the bad guy.
Because you don't get to be the bad guy in real life. So.
I am the most chill dude ever, so I am releasing the beast in a very safe environment and playing some very dark characters.
So I know you mentioned you go to a lot of conventions. Do you find a particular fan base is a little more excited, or maybe a little more fanatic about it? But, you know, whether it's anime fans versus video game fans versus TV show, cartoon fans. Like, is there a subset that's a little more wild?
You know what? For me, it's the dads. It's like the people who grew up playing these games that I voiced. They're, I think, my biggest fans because, you know, with all the new stuff that's out and new video games are coming out every day, the kids have a host of things to sort of choose from. Back in the day, you had a couple of iconic games and franchises, and everybody played them and everybody knew them. And now there's so much competition that we've almost diluted the industry by producing more and more. And I'm not discouraging people and developers from creating games. It's just a different world now. So my fan base are dads who played these characters growing up and are so excited to meet me because they played them when they were a kid.
That's so cool. We see that a lot at the store. We see dads come in and they want to share that experience they had growing up with their kids, you know, and then hopefully one day that kid will come in with their kid and they'll say, this is what my dad brought me to this, you know, and gaming is so, it's so welcoming and it's such a cool bonding experience, you know, for families. And so it's so funny you said that about dads because I see that all the time. Families coming in and
they're stoked. The dads are like, you're M. Bison, or you're Jax Briggs from MK9, or you're from World of Warcraft. Oh my God, I played these when I was a kid.
So, do you have a favorite role you've done? So you've done a lot of different roles, but is there one in particular that, whatever it was when you were reading, or it just stuck with you and just really it was a blast to do?
I really like X-Death from Final Fantasy. And there were a couple of Dissidia, I got a chance to say things that I think were profound in terms of how this character felt about death and not being afraid of it. That was like the coolest thing, to be like, there's nothing you can do to frighten or intimidate me because I'm over it already. I'm on the other side. And I also, we don't use the word imbecile a lot. But I love that some of my characters get to call their enemies and foes imbeciles.
It's, well, especially with the Japanese games, because created in that language, localized in English, and somehow you're able to still, you know, your performance is what brings that to our culture. You know, it could mean and could feel different to them, but you're bringing it to our culture. It's just fantastic work.
Here's what a lot of people don't know. We have to do something called match a lip flap. So the Japanese is already complete, and we're listening to it in Japanese, and the video or animated character is moving his mouth. Now the Japanese and the English don't always translate literally or equally, but somehow you have to make what you're saying look like it came out of this character's mouth.
Yes.
And it's a unique challenge, but a lot of fun. And for people who think about this as just a creative, there's a lot of technical stuff in terms of fighting and battle sounds and cries, and also that lip flap is going to go for 3.2 seconds, and then you're given a set of words that don't necessarily fit, and you've got to have in your head I got to make this last for 3.2 seconds. It's a skill that's developed over time that gets easier, but most people don't realize all of the technical aspects, especially when translating a game from Japanese into English.
One final question for you. You've been so generous with your time. Do you wear real pants when you're in the voice acting booth? Or is it a sweatpants kind of day?
We call it the pajama industry because you reach a level where you build a broadcast quality booth in your home someplace. And when I'm at home, I love wearing my pajamas and going to work. And for the actor, you start with the audition, which you can do from home in your pajamas, and then you submit that to your agent, and then they give you an email back, and sometimes you sign the contract, which you can do from home in your pajamas. And then if you've got a secure broadcast quality booth, you can actually record the gig from home. Now, video games are very competitive, so many of them say, no, we need you here in the booth with us at a secure studio so none of this information gets out. But there are some instances in a lot of other areas of voiceover, audio books and commercials, and that we can literally do from home. I'm always wearing pants, just sometimes they're pajama pants.
All right, fair enough. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, and give a round of applause to Gerald Rivers for his time. Thank you so much. Our booth here is, or our setup here, we're raising money for the Children's Hospital of Wisconsin. So your time brought people in, accepting donations over there. So thank you so much.
To bring the idea of Martin Luther King over here and support children who need our support. I will be doing a signing later. We have a panel this afternoon for directors, but I'll be at the table later signing and doing photographs and autographs if anybody's interested. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's great. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you.